Hello and welcome to the Buttcast. I have no idea what episode it is. Today's special guest is...
Yo, it's been a while.
It's
me, Ned.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you guys thought I was never going to come back after how many episodes I was not in.
I think it was kind of funny. We were talking forever ago when you were on an episode. After the episode was over, you're like, oh, the way I talked, it kind of made it seem like I wasn't going to be a regular guest.
Yeah.
Even though the plan has always been that you would be the most regular guest. But because I spent so long just kind of introducing the full cast of people, you'd have not been on for quite a while, even though...
Yeah.
But the plan originally, both of us thought that you were going to be on very, very often.
At least every other episode.
Yeah, something like that.
So, not every single one.
Now, return to original plan. Yes.
Yeah.
Now I will be happy to have you as my co-host as often as you are available.
No longer are we plagued with college examinations and being sick.
Yeah.
Being sick.
Yeah.
Pretty much the worst of the worst.
That was a weird thing for me was I actually recorded an episode with COVID. Two of them. The two episodes before this one. Mm-hmm. I mentioned it in the episode, the girlfriend episodes.
Yes.
The two of us had COVID.
Both of you had.
Yes.
So it's fine. We were just spreading the COVID among each other.
Yeah. We were both already sick, but that was a lot happened. A lot has happened since you and I got to chat together. But I think what we both already wanted to talk about was just the current format.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure last time we started talking about the incoming format.
Mm-hmm.
Last time we spoke, me and you, and that was the Shizu cards coming into play and everything. And well, now that it's actually come and it's been here for almost what it feels like an eternity at this point.
Yeah. Agreed.
We can pretty much take some of those theories out of the theory pool and into
see how it actually worked out.
Yeah, how it has worked out, how it's panned out overall. So I can say for sure that I still don't like that deck. I just never liked Tier, honestly, to be fair.
I really think the Shizu cards is what put it over the top.
Put it over the top.
The shufflers specifically, really, I really hate those.
The creation of interruptions for Graveyard in the form of, I think it's Keldo and Mudora, right?
I don't remember. The two shufflers.
Yes, I think it's Keldo and Mudora. In the shape of those two, just made it impossible for Graveyard-style decks, like how most decks had been shaped up to this point, to even exist at all. To think of existing at all.
It's because it's just so generic.
Yeah.
It's like all of the things that you'd think should be able to play around Tier, right? Like Naturia, the Lyralisk Tri-Brigade deck that's supposed to go over the top of it. All of these decks, they still have graveyard cards they need in the graveyard at any given moment.
Yeah.
And just lose to them being shuffled away.
Yes.
But they're like winds or earths. They're supposed to not have to worry about Bystials. But it doesn't really matter because the Ishizu cards can just shuffle literally anything back into the deck.
For almost practically no cost whatsoever.
Yes.
Oh man, I'm banishing this card that's already in the graveyard.
Yep.
And then I'm shuffling 3 cards, potentially one of mine, 2 of yours, back into the deck.
Yeah, so you shuffle
and
one
then
of
I get to pop something with Perleader.
Exactly. You shuffle one of your tiers and then you get a free pop. Or you can just put back it seems like the design of Kaleido Heart. The fact that it can't be used for a fusion summon is supposed to indicate that once it hits the graveyard, it's done. There's not a good way to get it back. But that just goes away when you have the Ishizu cards. And you can just put it back.
Yeah.
You can just put it back in the extra deck because you don't need to use it for a fusion summon to put it back.
Yeah.
It seems like that was an interaction that wasn't thought of to me. Like it seems like that was clearly the intention for balancing it to make it not be usable as fusion material.
Yeah.
And then to just have that immediately become irrelevant.
I'm hoping that this is the case, that Konami just did not think about it and we designed these cards modeled after Ishizu, iconic character in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. But there's this little thought at the back of my mind thinking, it's just Konami being Konami.
I'm sure it's Konami being Konami, but I have to imagine that they were trying to make it bad, but they didn't think it'd be this bad. Because just looking at the OCG, they just they hit it so much. They banned Kit. I mean, yeah, they banned Kit Kalos. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
Well, this could actually... so this kind of brings me into what I wanted to talk about, which is that the power of the formats, I think we mentioned, has just been slowly, and sometimes not so slowly, been up. Like, just power creep after power creep from the last format. When I think it has come to is that Konami has started to like try to revert some of that power creep to a sense by obviously hitting a lot of things in ban lists, but it isn't like a crucifixion list can fix it anymore. I feel like it's at that point where, like, I don't know if you guys remember in 2020 we had that list where it just neutered every single deck, Sky Striker, Thunder Dragon, Salamangreat, and like a myriad of other decks all got neutered in that list.
The
end of toss format, basically. That cannot happen anymore because even if they do try to neuter the deck completely, the power level of the deck is still so high. It's still so much up there. Like in OCG, take for instance, so the Ishizu cards came in and everything, and it was like tier 0 format for tournament around like, I want to say 6 months ago.
Something like that.
And then they got hit in the ban list. They were still very powerful and still being played everywhere. And then Photon Hypernova hit for them. Now, Castra becomes the better deck, and it's just pretty much just Castra this, Castra that, Castra everything. And then after that, they hit it very hard on the ban list, like neuter level hard on the ban list, and they expect us to not play the last format we were playing before that one. Because they haven't hit any other tournament card in that, like what's called ban list, aside from Castra tournaments.
Yeah, kind of the incidental hit there.
Like, it's not like you fixed the last format. No, you didn't. It's just you got rid of the one that we had substituted the last format for. Mm-hmm. And it's that kind of vicious cycle at this point now. So my idea now is that even if they do hit tier cards now in the TCG, it's not going to have a lesser impact on the fact that the decks we were playing before tier came out, like the new Dragon Link stuff. Dragon Link is it's gonna okay. People think that tier is terrible.
Bisteel, I think we kind of, if Bisteels were released, even if the tiers weren't, Bisteels are
insanely
They're
powerful.
Really good cards, and even without, I think the craziest thing about all this is that even in isolation, the Ishizu cards, the tier cards, and the Bisteels, even by themselves, and the Naturia cards, everything that's come out recently,
it's
just
broken,
leagues above everything that came before it. It feels to me like Secret Slayers all over again.
Yeah.
Except instead of being concentrated in one set, it's been the past 3, 4.
I want to say the last half year that's just been like pumping out insanely powerful decks. Like you mentioned tier, I would say Sprite is also among those decks.
Yes.
Obviously, like Bisteels, even some of the support that's been brought out for decks, like old decks, like Tri-Brigade, is also pretty, I wouldn't say on league, but it's out there. It's better than what they used to have. And obviously they're trying to bring other decks into the foray, like Naturia, but it's, I want to say that if there's going to be a dominant deck post Tierlem and post Castra, it's going to probably be Dragon Link because of all the damn Bisteel support. It's way too much.
Branded and Despia already is just right below competitive level, I'd say. You know, it just can't quite compete with tier specifically. So it's like, if that went away...
Well, it can't compete with tier because its major playmaker is like ripping 4 cards out of your opponent's hand, but it goes to the graveyard, so...
Not exactly the best outcome,
No, not yet.
But there are so many crazy cards, so many crazy decks that are just below, that they were, the meta decks before tier came out, but they haven't stopped getting support.
No.
They just keep getting better and better. They just can't quite compete with how crazy high the power level jumped since tier came out.
And this isn't even something that we're the only ones talking about. I've
Everyone.
watched several episodes of the Goo-cast. That's by very like renowned Yu-Gi-Oh player Pac and
I don't know. The only one I remember is it the
Nesh and Pac. It's
Okay.
Nesh and Pac. So both of them made like several recent episodes where they talked about how, yes, this format's very high power level and it's a tier 0 format, yes. But once this brushes over, there's so many decks, so many powerful decks that will surface, and people, it's gonna hit them like a truck. they're gonna think that, oh, finally we're out of no, we're still in the gutter.
Yeah, it's gonna be. People complain about Tier 0 because there's not enough variety. A lot of people love the idea of variety. You're going to get the variety, but it's going to be the same absolutely insane power level.
Yeah.
Except now you're not going to know what to side deck for it.
It's not side deck for it, yeah. It's not going to be a centralized lane. Well, I mean, that's also a flawed contention as well. Like, I think that people think that since it's a Tier 0 format, oh, this is super easy to side against. Well, I think it's mostly super easy to side against if you've had the hours to test millions and millions of cards and like just basically be a pro player. Because if you're not, even if you do figure out the good card in the surface to pair against tier, the better player is going to already know how to counter that card.
Yes,
it's like the guy that has
the counter side decking is
counter side decking, yes. Or even not just counter side decking, how to circumvent that play. Like pro players, and sometimes not even pro players, like just the deck itself is so powerful and resilient that it doesn't care if you side these powerful side cards or silver bullets, as we would call them before, against it. It's not enough. Like even if you do clock them with a D shifter first turn, I've seen flute players just lose because they
I've seen a lot of people lose to. I think it was before. I feel like shifter was really potent because the tier players didn't know what to do. Some of them would kind of play into it, and now it turns out to really be a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, if you have Sheeran plus normal summon, you just make Baguska pass, and if not, you just pass.
You just pass. Yeah.
And
you just win.
So many of the times you just win.
Yeah, because the decks that are playing shifter right now cannot kill.
Yeah.
They don't have a good kill clock. I mean, Flu does, but it's kind of hard to get to it.
Yeah. Very hand dependent.
Very hand dependent. The other one was Exorcister. I know it kind of faded into the nothingness of the world.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the ability to kill your opponent, like just make 8,000 damage easily.
Exorcister feels like even worse mathematic. Like,
way worse mathematic at this point.
People pretended like it was going to be good, and then it was like, oh,
it was good. Okay, it won a YCS. It won the first post YCS. Post YCS. Okay, so it was good. But we've been talking about, the power level is just so much higher now.
Yeah,
it's different. It's
people have figured it out.
Yeah,
I mean, a control deck like that, the amount of iterations you can do to make it better, kind of really
limited.
Yes, I'm sure this is not a unique observation I'm about to make, but as the format goes long, it's the combo decks that get better, more than the control decks.
Yes.
Because
in the beginning, the control is just, being control, set 4 pass.
More straightforward. There's not as much combos to figure out, and learning curve. Generally, it's pretty straightforward, and it's more about, like, game knowledge.
Yeah.
For playing a control deck very well, about understanding your opponent and making those interactions effective. It's more about the player, whereas with these combo decks, a lot of it is just figuring out the lines, which just takes time.
Should let you know how good tier is whenever flipping 4 floodgates isn't enough.
When they can just figure out how to play through it. Yeah. And a lot of it, the tier cards, part of it is just that they are so, I don't know if I want to use the word well designed, but they are so intentionally resilient. Yeah, they're resilient. Like the fact that for some reason, some of them are waters but most of them are darks, and then there was an aqua and warrior, and that for some reason there's a fiend. It seems like they were clearly made to be able to play around common floodgates. Because if you want to, it's pretty easy to end on a board of all dark stuff, or you can end on different types and attributes, or you can try to make them all the same. There's a lot of options for your inboards, which gives you a lot of ability to play through stuff, but it also means you have a lot of ability to play through stuff, which is really rough when people are trying to go against it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why rogue decks just don't really stand a chance at this point. Yeah. They had like their strategy before, maybe they're like little towers monster like Adignister has, but it just doesn't bode well. It's not enough. People have checked it out already.
Tier just has an answer for
everything.
It's insane. And it's not even like non-engine. In engine, they have an answer for everything. They've got crime and Omni Negate. They've got ways to reduce the opponent's attack points so that they can out towers non-targeting attack point modifications.
Yeah.
Through Scream and the Field Spell. 15. You gotta summon a monster with more than 4,500 attack points if you don't want it to just get run over. That's kind of bonkers.
Yeah.
Sorry, how much does Kaleido? It's 33, isn't it?
So Kaleido Hard is 3,000.
3,000. 33 defense.
It's 33 defense. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's 3,000 attack.
It has to have a 4,500. If you have a Towers monster, it has to have more than 4,500 attack points, or they can just run it over.
Yeah.
Which is just ridiculous. Because you'd think that a tower would be one of the few things that you'd be able to get away with against here, but nope, that's not going to work for you. If you're playing Dragoon, you have to negate 2 cards before it's big enough to be actually unoutable. And even then, they can find workarounds. By negating it with crime, for instance.
It's back with crime. Like, how
the fact that crime shuffles too. Why? An Omni Negate wasn't good enough? It'd be an Omni Negate that shuffles back into the deck? It's insane.
Yeah, it should tell you how good Omni Negates are nowadays. Like, the first time I saw something like this was with Orcus and Orcus Crescendo. You would, like, banish. Instead of destroy or do anything like banish the card. But now, you don't even get to proc that niche effect that you had whenever your monster got banished, if it had any. No, you just get slammed with a no button. Just an absolute no button.
It just
wiretap and steroids.
Denies you the resource.
Yeah.
Which is so rough. It used to be the only way to play through negates is that your cards would be able to get value in multiple ways. So even if they're negating it, it maybe has an effect in the graveyard, blah, blah, blah. So you can kind of put forth enough interaction to push through those negations. Even if they had 5 or 6, maybe your cards just by their nature, like if you're playing Salad or something, like where they'd have graveyard effects, but they'd also have uses on the field. So even if they removed them, they'd still be able to do something, blah, blah, blah. But nowadays, it's like the quality of disruption is just so insane.
Like with, so I was actually testing pre-Ishizu tier format. I was playing Drytron, and I could actually very well break a tier board, even if they did have a crime setup, because it was like doable. But then you have the added, Keldo, Medora spins in the graveyard, and like the pop that's going to come out of the Pearl Arena if they time it correctly.
Yep.
And it's impossible at this point because there's just too much in every zone. In every way. In the back row, in the front row, in the graveyard, in the hand.
Everywhere. Yes, it's insane. Everywhere. They've got back row, the back row, the front row, the graveyard, the hand. The only thing is the banished pile. Just wait. Just you wait.
We're
gonna get stupid Testira card that does something from the
Cosmos.
It's wild for sure. Because it does, when you look at the board, it doesn't look that imposing.
No.
It's like they've got 2 back row, and then like
I want to compare it to like the Prankets board.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't look like it's anything at all. It's actually the Prankets. It was nothing. There was nothing on the board, and then suddenly out of nowhere, you just got hit with like 6 hand traps in the hand, and then double Battle Butler, and then 3 like infinite impermanence in the back row as well. Like
whereas with tier, it's like visibly there's like 3 disruptions. But then you've got the stuff in the graveyard, stuff in the hand. They can just spiral out of control so fast.
Yeah.
And they're all so varied. Like the quote-unquote silver bullet is evenly matched. Evenly matched. One of those insane board breakers of all time is like the only one that still does anything.
And even then,
mid. Even then, you've got to worry about the Kaleido, you've got to worry about the Havness in the hand, you've got to worry about all the graveyard shufflers. It's insane. And I know some people testing the upcoming format are the triple tasking talents, is that what it's called?
Triple talents tasking or something
Something like that.
Yes.
The one that lets you add
any
any spell trap from your deck to your hand. And it searches evenly matched, and it doesn't win you the game. It's just a good card. Which is just wild to me. Evenly matched has always been this.
Well, I mean, I think you can even activate it the turn that you search it, right? Or, I mean, I think it has a special condition in which you can if you, I don't know, if the monster was activated during that release or something. I don't remember it. I haven't read that card, so I'm just speaking out of my absolute bum right now.
Triple tactics tasking.
Yeah.
If your opponent has activated a monster effect this turn, set one normal spell/trap directly from your deck. It cannot be activated this turn. Or if your opponent controls a monster, and you can add that card to your hand instead. And then you just go to your battle phase, and the battle phase evenly match them. So
yeah, because the restriction for not activating that turn
is
only
only
if
they
it's
don't
set.
control a monster. Yeah. So if they activate a hand trap, you still get to search your deck for the Crime or the Salic.
Before it used to be Mystic Mind, we could just search Mystic Mind.
Mystic Mind. Even
oddly enough, Mystic Mind. This is the format where it should have been available.
It does feel like that would have been like the only answer, but it's still Mystic Mind.
Crusty.
It's crusty and also just feels bad.
Yeah. To
just let that exist. You know, it's like saying the answer is to unban Kaiser Coliseum. It's like, I mean, sure, that'd be like a good floodgate against them.
Yeah, but then we're back in the...
But now you've brought a whole new set of problems.
Yeah, new set of problems. Like, we're back in the dilemma that we were talking about earlier, which is like, we let all this other things that were supposed to counteract the really bad tier 0 deck still roam free. And that's the issue. That's probably the issue we're going to be presented with in the future after this format, like,
eventually
by. Yeah. Eventually, and say if it doesn't, well, please tell me it doesn't.
So this version will definitely pass away.
Yeah.
But what we're left with at the end is very subject to who knows what's going to happen. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about like what actually could be done. Because it's a little difficult, because even though it feels like it's been an eternity, they are still genuinely all very new cards. Mm-hmm. Which makes it harder to hit them specifically.
Well, before we do, I actually want us to go back to a little something that we were actually supposed to do at the beginning of the episode. So, a little while ago, we started this Yu-Gi-Oh! Lingo segment, and today I would like to continue that tradition by introducing a new word. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't really remember which ones we talked about it before.
Fair enough.
I'm pretty sure we talked about the Garnet already. But, oh God, I think I've forgotten. Cut this out.
I ain't editing this. This is going straight up.
He's going straight up.
There, in the last episode, what I actually talked about was errata.
Erratas.
That was because my girlfriend absolutely despises it in the context of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because she thinks it's dumb. But so we talked about. Well, I don't think we've actually explained what a Towers is, but we keep mentioning it. So,
okay, I guess we could go with the Towers monster this time around. So a Towers monster is a homage to a very powerful card, or at least that's what people thought it was. Back during post Duelist Alliance format and I don't remember the set that came out after it exactly.
It wasn't the first wave.
No, it was
the second.
It was the second wave of Cleaveforge that came with it. I remember it had Dark Rebellion XYZ Dragon in the front. That's as far as I remember for the set, but it was Clash of Rebellions or something.
You're all watching History of Yu-Gi-Oh!
You remember. You can go and watch it over there. But Apocryphal Towers was a very powerful card that came in that set, and what it read was basically, you cannot affect me. You cannot do anything to me. And that is what a Towers monster has embodied now. A monster that is generally unaffected or very hard to out. Yeah. Essentially.
So this one, unaffected by spell, trap effects, and the activated effects of monsters whose original level rank is lower than this card's current level. Which, at the time, meant that it just, because it's level 10, basically just meant it's unaffected by everything at the time.
Pretty much. It
There
was
was
very hard to get on monsters that were above level or / rank 10. Links
that actually
didn't
did
exist.
something,
That
too.
actually did something too.
There was no link, so yeah, you couldn't do that.
No.
And also 3k attack points, and it has an effect to reduce attack points. All special summon monsters lose 500, so you got to get a 35k dude just to beat over this thing. And it's Klee, so they've got other crap back there too.
Yeah.
But at the time,
the best way to out it was Diamond Crab King.
Yeah, unironically, yeah.
It was. That was the best way to out it. You baited your opponent's interactions in the back row, one way or another, and then you summon a Diamond Crab King with your 2 rank level 4s, and then realize that you lost the game because you've wasted everything.
Yeah. Klee being Klee, but I think it's because that, of course, so that's what the term means. It means a boss monster that's very difficult to interact with or out.
Yes.
But I think it's really funny because historically, Klee Fort Towers wasn't really that good.
It wasn't,
even though it's
good
become
enough for Konami to get banned.
Like a lot of the other Yu-Gi-Oh lingo words, they were genuinely warping cards that changed Yu-Gi-Oh forever.
Yeah,
like
Garnet.
Yeah, like Garnet in that context, it was absolutely insane. It completely changed. Like, people did not used to play Garnets. And now it is every deck plays something essentially
a
a
level
Garnet.
of Garnet. Like, archetypes are inbuilt with, like, Garnets, or what we consider to be a Garnet, which is like a card that you just don't want to have in your hand.
And of course, Stratos was an absolutely insane card for almost its entire existence. And to this day, that design is used all over the place. But Towers, it's like, when it came out, it wasn't that good. I think, if I remember the history correctly, it mostly just terrorized the lower end of the power spectrum.
Yeah.
Like, locals and stuff were absolutely overrun. But, like, YCSs and stuff, it very minimally any top cut or...
Yeah, barely any representation at all. Like, I remember playing against Clifford. I saw it every day doing locals, like you said. I don't know too much about the YCS because I wasn't at that level of play.
Yeah.
I know I saw it in regionals, but I think that's about very spot on the power level of this card. It just wasn't everywhere like a Garnet would have been, or a Stratos would have been for the deck, or like. It doesn't have the same type of meaning. It's more of a just a term we're using now, you could say.
But I think it kind of says something about, we like to pretend like the top end competitive is like where the culture of Yu-Gi-Oh comes from. But I think we forget just how many of the players are those regional, local, online players. And I think that's kind of where this term really came from, was all the people who were maybe not the most competitive players, but still played enough to where they had PTSD from having to try to out at Towers. And it's kind of not infected, but it's become part of our lingo and culture. And I just think it's kind of interesting to think about, we like to pretend that it's all about the YCS top cut and everything. But like a lot of the ban lists and stuff, sometimes they hit things because just a lot of the player base has to deal with it, even if it's not a YCS level contender. I think Towers was the exact same thing. Even when it was banned, I don't think it was that good. It was just that still enough of the player base just absolutely despised it from having to face that local and regional levels that it got hit.
See, guys, there's a certain level of influence that player base has over Konami. It's not completely just up to them.
Well, even if because I know, like, people who go to YCS and stuff, a lot of them have the opportunity to, like, meet Konami people, right? So it makes sense that they can have a sway over stuff like the ban list, just because they just get to casually chat with people on the official Konami team. But the fact is that something like Towers is, like, just enough middle-of-the-pack Yu-Gi-Oh players hated it that Konami felt the need to do something about it. Yeah. I feel like Mystic Mind kind of fits that category too when it got banned.
I feel like Mystic Mind is...
Because it wasn't really that good, but just enough people were just so annoyed with it. Enough people in that middle to lower competitiveness were just so annoyed with the card that it Konami finally agreed to get rid of it, even if it wasn't seeing as much play at the top end.
It didn't have any. It didn't even have a good win record.
Oh yeah, it was less than 50%.
Less than 50%.
That's awful.
Yeah, but at this point, like you said, we're probably just sick and tired of seeing the card just being played. Yeah. It's been played since 2019 when it was released in Dark Neostorm. So it's about time to put it.
I think this counts as a net good. I think. Yeah. One a little bit of philosophy here. Of course, the problem with Mystic Mine, obviously, when it's just baiting a negate, I don't think anyone has any trouble with that. The problem is when it actually sticks, and now you're in this weird game state where you have to just pass back and forth, and maybe they just win by deck out. Mm-hmm. But it kind of brings up the question of what a board breaker should do, right?
Yeah.
Because I really like the design of the board breakers that make you not be able to deal damage or skip your battle phase, like Evenly Matched and Dark Ruler more.
Yep.
They break the board, but they give your opponent a chance to bounce back.
Yeah.
Of course, that's kind of biting us a little bit in this current format, where tier is just so insanely high-powered that giving it another turn means losing. Yep. But I like that idea of these board breakers that let you break the board, but they don't let you win the game that very moment.
And this has actually incentivized us to look for similar board breakers that don't exactly not allow us to win the game. Mm-hmm. Yes. This is why people have actually, at least in the side, moved away from using Dark Ruler or Evenly, as far as I've seen. They, cash trap players, the few that there are right now, are using Lava Golem in the main sometimes just to out most of the problematic monsters, and it's worked for them like a charm because they don't need to they don't need to normal summon. Mm-hmm. This deck does not need to normal summon. They just slam a dude on the field and get meta noised, and that's the end. That's all she wrote.
I think I saw a lot of even the tier builds had kind of dropped the board breakers, and we're playing more stuff like triple tack and stuff like that.
I've even seen some builds start dropping Bestios overall. They stopped playing Bestios because most of the people that are playing Dark and Light decks have faded into non-existence.
Except me, of course. Yeah.
Except me. Wait, I'm not playing. Actually, no. I'm playing 2 dark monsters in my deck. Okay,
what are you playing right now?
I'm playing Caster Sprite.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So.
Because that's a thing that exists.
Yeah, it's a thing that exists. Well, it turns out that if your Nemesis tier player thinks that you can just destroy the board by eliminating everything, and then you just slam a Caster, it works very well.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
It gives you a fallback combo.
Yeah.
Anyway, addressing the current format, how to fix. Again, it doesn't feel like you can do. We don't want to do a neuter list. If we were Konami, right? Yeah. What do we do? I'd argue neuter list is not good. They're still too new. I feel conflicted about hitting the Ishizu cards too much because, they're new. But also, if tier wasn't a thing, they'd be helping a lot of other cool decks. Like the Earth deck, if you know. The Naturia, Vernasil. Wow. That's really cool.
I wanted to get into that deck, but then
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper, but then I saw its performance.
It's not doing good.
It's not very good. No.
It cannot keep up. No. But that makes me feel kind of bad for hitting the Ishizu cards.
Yeah, there's definitely a bulls for a power up for decks of that sort that could use a little bit of it, honestly. So,
but if we don't hit any of the engine at all, there's just no way of reining in the power level. Because again, like I said, it's all in engine.
So me and my couple of friends, and I've even seen this being talked about in chats and groups outside, even in the Goo cast that I mentioned earlier. Banning Murdy is probably the good move right here. And the reason why is because, so Sharon makes rank 4s, and it's easy special summon from the hand, and so is Havness. But Murley being a level 2 was a mistake in every sense of the word, because it allowed it to get access to the sprite cards, such as Sprend, such as Elf, and that just gives it infinite recurability when it comes to a later game stage.
Yeah.
For instance, I absolutely poopied on the tournament board. I don't remember exactly how. I think I had a good combination of Bystios and like just monsters and like cards to push through almost all their interactions.
Yeah.
And then he just special summoned them with Elf.
Yeah.
Easy. Mill 3, hit all 3 good cards.
So,
whoa.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I think I've talked at length about how, for me, the scariest thing is when all the best decks are playing all of the best cards. You know, like the fact that Sprite is just good cards in any deck.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that everything that you're playing, the Elf in the Sprint, and sometimes I think it's not as common anymore, but they were playing Gigantic to grab a Jet, to grab a Smashers, and it's just like, to me, that's just like, I want to section these off as much as possible, and I agree. I think Merly being banned is the best way.
Yeah, gives them one less fusion. It cuts off the Sprite, Sprint, and whatever freaking line. Keeps you from being able to like make dark as easily, and like just think that if I make a dark, I can just make a like Sprite up, and then blah 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 blah.
To be fair,
doesn't make it as easy.
The Sprite cards are so ridiculous that you can just make a dark and then overlay the dark with something else to go into Gigantic, but that requires a much higher investment.
Yeah.
Which I think is what we're going for here.
Yeah, just have higher investments. Make it so that you're playing bricks, not just a deck that's just...
Make it so your choices have actual consequences. Yes. Give your opponent the opportunity to punish you.
Yeah.
So
at this point, or stage in the game, it doesn't feel like we're punishing anything. Mm-hmm. It feels like we're getting punished for making a play.
Yeah. So I think I am definitely in agreement. I think we should ban Marley. I think it should be gone. It feels kind of weird, but the power level is so high, it justifies it.
Yeah.
Even though it's so new, just to ban Marley. And I'm sure it's still going to be the best deck.
It's still going to be the best deck, if not one of the best decks, because people are going to find workarounds, like we said earlier. They're going to play King of the Swamp with like polymerization in their deck if that's what they need to.
Which is
they're
going
to play Dark World Dark World cards in their deck, maybe.
Who knows? Well, they're definitely going to, if they play Swamp, which I think is very realistic, to get the poly, just to get that one last fusion summon that they're losing. Mm-hmm. Well, then they're probably going to play the Grapha Fusion, because you can make it really easily.
Yeah.
It does worry me slightly that maybe Caligula will be a thing, but then again, with how things have shaped up, it seems like it's really not a good card in this modern context.
Yeah, it really isn't.
So it'll probably just be the Grapha is going to be a very common new thing for the tier to do. But I think, Merly definitely the thing. Talking about these Shizu cards, I think probably the name is Kelback, right? Those special summon from hand, balances special summon guy.
Is special summon, sent Mill 5.
I think limiting him is just like
a good move.
Forces
people to play Agido instead of Agido. It's kind of poopy.
I mean, Agido is still Mill 5.
It's still Mill 5,
at least it's not a hand trap as well.
Yeah.
Which is just so oppressive that it's just also a hand trap.
Yeah.
You gotta love when one of the playmakers of your deck is just also a hand trap. Cough, cough. You're in. Happiness. Cough, cough. But I think, and I would consider...
I think Halfness is only a hand trap. It's very rarely have I seen people dump it into the graveyard, aside from like this, gimmicky Draco Sack play.
I talked to some people, I talked to a guy who is not as in it to the game right now.
Yeah.
And about Lightsworn.
Yeah. And
I kind of realized that Lightsworm, you had your playmakers, and then you had your cards that did stuff when they hit the graveyard.
Yeah.
And Tier just kind of completely flipped that on the head by making all of the starters also do something when they hit the graveyard. They just doubled up. Yeah. You don't have to worry about drawing your wolf, because your wolf is named Sheeran or Merly or Rhino Heart, and they just also do something amazing in the hand. And then when you happen to mill them, they get to fusion summon and absolutely pop off. Which I feel, so that's kind of...
I didn't mention Rhino Heart. I forgot about it, little asshole. Yeah, that card sucks, too. Okay. There's no cost to anything that it does.
Yes.
There's literally no cost to anything that it does. Oh, no, I have to send a card from my hand. Whatever will I do? Oh,
free fusion.
Free cards sometimes. Mm-hmm. Because you just dump a crime, or you dump a, not a crime. You dump a scream from your hand that's just rotting in your hand.
Just free.
Yeah. Oh, and like, have you heard the way they do it now? Like, how to get to crime very easily is just like, oh, banish one of my Shizu cards, spin some of my cards back, use Pellerino, which pops cards on the field instead of just my opponent's, pop my own Scream, search crime.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
I heard about that one too. Yes.
Why? Why so little restrictions? That's what I really wanted to know about this deck. Why so little restrictions? It feels like they were just trying to make it a very over-the-top deck.
They really could have. There are so many restrictions they could have put on them, and they still would have been the best deck.
Yeah, it still would have been the best deck.
They could have locked him into just fusions.
Like
they could have locked him in a tier, just tier, and it still would have been
a very good deck. I feel like at that point it would have been just a really good deck.
It would have been tier 1.
Tier 1.
It just wouldn't have been tier 0.
Tier 0.
They could lock him into fusions and then still be tier 0, I think. I mean, not being able to make Dweller is enough of a... But then you could probably find, depending on where you put the lock, they could probably still have made the Dweller. And
seeing as to how it's not a full turn lock, but nowadays it's like a just after this lock.
Anyway, so I agree with banning Merle. I feel like it's a little too early to do the other tier hits that even because it's bizarre to me that we're like, oh yeah, ban Merle, and I'm over here like, and what else do we have to do? Because I know it's not going to be enough. But at the same time, the cards are so new. I don't really think it's fair to do more than banning.
Well, I mean, the initial Pote release cards, I feel like we could hit those because they're old enough at this point. 6 months is usually like the time frame that Konami likes to give decks, at least by my experience. And especially if they're very powerful, especially if they're tier 0. Actually, I feel like it's overdue at this point, since they're tier 0.
Okay.
So I guess we could hit, and this is just speculation, we could hit Kid Kalos to 1. So people can't just do the cheeky thing, I'm going to play 2 Kid Kalos, so even if they do banish my 1 with...
putting it at 1 makes it a lot weaker to the upcoming metagame.
Make it so that the Diabolos hitting the... It seems unfair. Actually, it's very unfair. But get a little bit of a taste of your medicine, Dick. Anyway. Could do that.
We know that they can play with
or
that.
Maybe play it to 2. I don't know. Put it to 2. It's meaningless. Yeah.
Put it at 1.
And then Rhinoheart to 1. Make it so that your 1 card, make it all, doesn't exist in your hand as much as often as possible.
What I would do. So I think for the upcoming metagame, just banning Merle, I think is fair. Well, banning Merle, I think also we could hit Bestial and which something of note. Bestial's just good in tier by default, even if they weren't DD Crow. Just banishing your own stuff to summon them, and then maybe be able to make a Beatrice with the Garura. It's just like already, just in the archetype, the Bestials are crazy. So hitting them is not just it's not just good for tier. It is also genuinely a hit for tier as well, hitting the Bestials. So I think banning Merle, limiting the Kelbeck, and limiting the Magnamut. Is that what his name is? I forget. The one who searches during the end phase.
Yeah, Magnamut.
I think if we do that, ban, limit, it's not going to remove tier from the format, and it's not going to remove it from tier 1. But I think that would make it a lot more fair, because now you have less hand trap to worry about with the 2 less Bestials and 2 less of the Kelbeck, and then without the Merle, they're 1 fusion summon down, and they can't play the sprite stuff as effectively. So I think that's a fair...
More like they can't play it at all.
I hope so. I think that's a fair first round of hits. And then inevitably, when that's not enough, the next ban list we can go okay, limit Rhinoheart, limit Kit Kalos, limit...
No, at that point just ban Kit Kalos.
Yeah, probably.
At that point just
if it survives the Merle ban and limiting the other engine cards, then probably just ban Kit, then limit Avnus.
So this is an unpopular idea, and this is like a hot take, obviously. But other hits that could possibly happen, and this is just for the greater metagame, this is not just even tier, is banning Garuda. Or Garura. Because I think that card was a mistake.
Oh, man.
No, it's a very neat card, but it's too neat. It's too neat. Like it fills the role of that fusion monster that you had to have for super polymerization. And those instances where your opponent has a Omni attribute, Omni type deck,
Yes.
and basically punishes people for playing those types of decks, like the types of decks that only have one type and then one attribute. Beyond that, it also makes it so easy for like you to go into your tier fusions, and possibly even in the future if there's like another fusion archetype that just benefits of you like making random as hell fusions with like very easy to meet fusion requirements. It's gonna be a problem. You just get a +1 for making a fusion monster.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I see where you're coming from. Garura is an insane card and will definitely have long-reaching implications.
Yeah.
But to push back a little bit,
People are using it to make freaking like what's it called? The Deer Servant into Engage. Come on.
yeah,
Like,
that's pretty funny. But I want to push back a little bit on that. First of all, if we do the ban melee, which we both agree is definitely correct, that one less fusion summon is going to make these utility fusion monsters a lot less useful. Because now those fusion summons are going to be so much more valuable. You're not going to be able to just go, if you go into a group, wow, that is one of your 2 fusion summons. It's like, one of your fusion summons is always going to be Kit.
I think it's going to tunnel them more into making Mud Dragon.
I don't even know why they would make Mud Dragon.
Mud Dragon is for the targeting protection.
I know, but if you only have 2 of the fusion summons, now obviously if you draw instant fusion, you're just a god. What can I say? If you draw
ban that card, by the way. I forgot to mention ban that card.
I think don't ban instant fusion because we're going to ban Kit eventually.
No, instant fusion is a powerful card in and of itself. Like never mind now. In the future, there's going to be there are going to be more cards that are printed that are fusion level 5 or lower.
You know what I think. Moving. Let me finish what I'm saying first. Okay. So for Garura, I think we ban Merly. Now it's that spot in the extra deck, in that ability to fusion summon is so much less. You're going to have to pick. Are you going to make a Garura or are you going to have your Mud Dragon? Which one is it going to be? And there's going to be a lot more choice. It's not going to be, oh, I have a little, I can't quite do this. It's a little awkward, but I have enough fusion summons where it doesn't matter. Now it's going to be awkward and it's like, well, if you make the Garura, you just don't get to go into one of your boss monsters. You're just short 1 material. That's why I think Garura in that context is not as crazy. As far as Super Poly goes, Super Poly is not good right now.
It's not good right now.
Super Poly, the fact that it's loses you some advantage by having to discard a card already means that it has to basically win you the game for it to justify itself. And Garura, as far as it's a great Super Poly target in that it has such wide application because it's just mono-type attribute decks, which is most decks' engine is mono-type attribute, or even just if you control 2 of the same monster. Well, you can't because Garura requires different names, but you get what I mean. It is very easy to summon, but it's not really. All that does is non-targeting remove 2 monsters at the cost of a discard. Because Garura, unlike...
Technically, no, because Garura is just +1.
Unlike the other former ones, like Mud Dragon, like Dragostapelia, like the other Predaplant one, they actually did something when you summoned them. And they actually were also good cards. Garura, you still have to get rid of it. You still have to use it for something, which is going to depend on which deck is playing it, right? It's not going to, like, if you're playing Grand Maju and Super Poly is just a card to out things, you're not really going to be able to remove the Garura to get your draw, right? There's a lot more dependent on a lot of other factors. So that's why I'm not as aggressive about hitting Garura, because it's going to be, there's so many other factors that go into whether or not it'll be good in the future. I see right now how it feels like an absolutely terrible design decision, how it's just completely going to ruin the game. But I think that's a symptom of just how insane Tier is, rather than how insane Garura is specifically. That being said, I am more than willing to be proven wrong in future metagames where it's just an amazing super poly target. To tag on that a little bit, a lot of nowadays, so many of the extra deck in bosses we're making aren't the same type attribute combinations anymore, even if that's what your archetype is. So really, super polys for Garura isn't as good going second. It's actually better going first. And now you are playing a board breaker as disruption. You know, it's kind of getting. You see how it's kind of getting awkward.
Yeah.
Garura becoming less obviously good. That's kind of how I feel about it. Anyway, but now to go backwards to what we said earlier about instant fusion. Where Chit is going to get banned eventually. I think that's just kind of inevitable because even without it, the deck is good. So you have to get rid of it eventually. And when that happens, what is the other good instant fusion?
All the other good tier names.
Once we have banned every tier, instant fusion, what is it really accomplishing? And sure, there are cards, but I think it would just be better to put it at after Chit is gone. Put instant fusion to 3 and just like.
God,
the problem is not instant fusion. The problem is not instant fusion. It's them being stupid and printing level 5 or lower insane fusion monsters. Because you only make it a level 5 or lower so that it works with instant fusion. That's not, like, if you think about fusion monsters, you're fusing 2 monsters together. Why would that be a level 5? Just inherently, you'd think it's going to be at least level 6. Because you're combining 2 monsters together to make it. So the only reason they ever make it level 5 or lower is for you to summon with instant fusion. So I think the problem is that they keep designing cards that are absolutely stupid with instant fusion on purpose, rather than instant fusion itself. Mm-hmm. And also, if we get 3 instant fusion and Chit is banned, Predaplant could summon their dude really easily.
This is what it's really about. It's the Predaplant.
Really about Predaplant.
It's really about Predaplants. You just really want Predaplants in the metagame.
Yes, and I want archetypal. I want more archetypes to have Nordens. I want Norden to be.
So you mean kind of like the Bee Trooper Norden that's coming out?
Oh yeah, they do kind of have that coming out, don't they?
They're gonna. It's coming out.
I want Norden, but it's like specifically lets you special summon a water monster from the graveyard.
You're terrible.
So that way it's not as stupid.
No, this is bad.
I want a Norden that is specifically for water. We can have a Norden that's specifically for fairies. There we go.
You're gonna get us canceled. Stop it.
They should just bring back Norden and errata. There we go.
Errata.
that won't go over poorly, right?
Oh god.
They should just errata Norden and change its name.
Stop it.
Just like change its name and its effect. It's just a new card, but they call it an errata. That'd be funny.
It would never be seen. It would be a never before seen change, definitely. No. But no, in all due seriousness, I do think Instant Fusion is a poorly designed card at this point. It's an ancient card from Cyberdark Impact, and like the meme goes, basically every single old card will eventually become broken. Bean Soldier, we're looking at you. What was his name? It was Bean Soldier. No, it wasn't Bean Soldier.
Are you looking at the other? Oh, do you mean the one who's being played in Kastira right now? Is that what you're talking about? Or do you mean Bean Soldier, the level 3 1750?
Yeah, I think it was the level 3 1750.
Yes. Yeah, the joke is that Bean Soldier...
Jerry Beansman.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry Beansman.
Some people, yes, the old joke that eventually everything will be broken.
Everything will be broken.
But think about it. Instant Fusion, it's Cup Ramen. What are you going to... You're going to ban Cup Ramen?
Yes, I'm going to...
You're going to ban Cup Ramen? But then what about Ready Fusion? It's got a...
Okay, Ready Fusion is not powerful because it doesn't summon effect monsters that do something.
But think about the lore. What is the magical scientist going to... You're ruining his business.
What are you talking about? I did it. He just started a factory where he makes what's called instant ramen.
Uh-huh. He's making the packets instead.
Yeah, he's making the packets instead.
You can
okay, this is just like actual, metagaming us. Or like, they're giving us a little bit of meta commentary, Konami. They're going to ban Instant Fusion because he's making the
he's changed products?
He's changed products. He's making the packets instead of the cup ramens. But no, seriously, like, I do not think that's a good card.
Have you seen the artwork of Norden eating cup ramen?
The cup ramen. Yeah, I see that.
How can you still believe that either of those cards should be banned after seeing that? Clearly, they should both come back.
Oh, they're made for each other in the ban list. No,
I see where you're coming
Yeah.
from. I think I have maybe too much faith that they just won't make as many more
They're
stupid
going
instant fusion targets.
they already started doing it. Like, the B-Trooper level 4 fusion is coming out.
The B-Trooper sucks.
B-Trooper sucks for now.
Even when they can search Max C, they're bad. That's terrible.
That's only terrible because they think it's terrible. It's not terrible.
It sucks.
It's not. It doesn't suck.
I had faith for so long that B-Trooper would be something. And
I
it's
mean, they
nothing.
also didn't give it any good support after the first wave. Yes. So it's not like, okay, it got the opposite of the tier treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Its best support was at the very, very start.
Yeah.
And then just got garbage afterwards.
Yeah.
Whereas tiers like, okay, we got good support at the beginning, and then better support.
Yeah. It never stopped. Here's a thought. What do you think about banning crime?
It's not enough.
But just think about it for a moment. Then suddenly, evenly matched actually does something, and with the triple tactics tasking, being able to search the evenly, now you don't have to worry about it. Now suddenly every deck is playing 6 evenly matched, and they don't have a spell trap negate. I guess they could. No, never mind. The Grapha. If they
can just go tunnel into the Grapha.
If they play the Mud Dragon to make Grappa, then they can.
I mean, then at least Dark Ruler evenly becomes something rather than Dark Ruler evenly being nothing like that.
Yeah. They're like, cool, you have outed one negate of my Rukalas. Wow. That sucks for you. Now I can just do everything again. Since I didn't use Rukalas as effect, I can just shuffle it away to make something and then fusion summon it again. And now the effect's back online. I did that to someone. They felt dumb. Yeah, it is just bonkers how easy it is to, on your opponent's turn, just go through all 3 fusion summons to do whatever on earth you could possibly want. The 3 fusion summons on your own turn when you're playing tier, it feels really restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh no, my inboard can only ever really be Rukalos plus Kaleido Heart in the back row. But it's just, you just got to set yourself up to do fusion summons, and being able to fusion summon exactly the card for the situation on your opponent's turn is so insanely powerful. Being able to say, oh, okay, I know they're on Sprite now, so I'm going to summon the Dragostapelia to make it level 1.
Are people still playing the Dragostapelia?
I think so.
I think I've seen as many.
I think they're still playing it as a 1-up. Not everyone, but I still think some people are.
Like, people are probably at the experimental stage where they're trying to test out which fusions are better against Castor instead of like... I mean, Dragostapelia is still pretty good, don't get me wrong. It definitely stops you from being able to make the level 7s, but at that point, you're buying for space. Like, what do we go for?
Oh, tier's so weird. Mm-hmm. You talk about space, but it feels so strange to think about what I even put in there sometimes. The core is so strong. That sometimes the extra spaces feel like this might come up. I don't know. It feels weird how pseudo-loose the extra deck is, even though it's a combo deck. Mm-hmm. Just because the power is so concentrated in the engine cards. Yeah. And you genuinely don't have to play... The fact that... It's just a thing about tier. The fact that you can just put everything back means that there's just no reason to play multiples of, like, anything. Because you can just put it back. Yeah, there was a time where people played 2 Dragostapelia because you could make one with the other. Like, when tier was newer. Yeah. And now you just don't need to do that. No. There's just no point. You can just put it back and then make it again. Just use it as a shuffler or fuse it off for something else and then fusion summon it again. Make a Mud Dragon or something. It's just unnecessary. Just save yourself some extra deck space.
You just reminded me of another reason why I have some grievances against these use of cards. Mm-hmm. What is that crap about shuffling back the fusions that I took so long to fucking out? No, like, don't do it. Like, yeah. Okay, now I really want those cards out of here. No, fuck. No, screw those cards.
The shufflers is so...
I feel like they could have gone without being quick effects.
Yeah. Even if they weren't quick effects, I think they'd still be pretty good.
They would be pretty good.
Or if they had a condition around when they did their thing, as something, like literally
I don't even know what it would be.
Here's a good condition they could have had. when it's sent in the graveyard, trigger.
So it's basically
itself
Shadal at that point. It would be like a Shadal
Ariel
at that point.
Exactly. And you're still going to hit them because you're going to Kelback, dump, Agito dump, to mill 5, you're going to Murley dump 3, still be able to hit them, still be able to do it. And in fact, I think that is probably the most impressive part, is just that at any moment you can just shuffle 3 cards in the graveyard back in, which is just so bonkers. Anyway, we have hit your mandatory 1 hour of talking to me, so...
I did say something along the lines of, no longer are we troubled by examinations and college tests, but guess what? We still are.
Yeah, it's a hamster wheel. It never ends.
It really is. But anyway, I was very happy to finally get to be in another episode after so long. And
yes, it's
talk about some controversial prospects.
Yes, it is. It's not quite banless season per se, but it is. It feels like the air is here for everyone to kind of start discussing it.
Mm-hmm. I'd say like about maybe 2 weeks we should be getting a banlist.
Yeah, I hope 2 weeks. Yeah. The sooner the better, I'd say.
The sooner the better.
And I'm playing deer, but the sooner Murley is gone, the better.
Yeah, this is how you know it's that toxic of a deck, dude. The guy playing it is like, yeah, I want this card gone.
No Murley, it's like I can still do stuff. The deck's still perfectly usable, still pretty good. So,
yeah.
Anyway, thank you for listening.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.